Good day and welcome to the KLM Auctions Friends with Benefit Auctions podcast. My name is Keith McLean, KLM Auctions. So glad to be here with you all today. I'm here with three of my favorite people, three of my favorite clients, people who are truly experts in the field, in the development and event field. And I'm with Kristi Maryman of Sacramento SPCA, Taylor Beveridge of Carlsbad Educational Foundation, and Rachel Schmidt of English in Action. We're going to be going through a few things here in the fundraising auction world that we think will be helpful to our clients, other folks in the event and development space. KLM Auctions is California's largest provider of pre-auction consulting services and professional benefit auctioneers. My 11 auctioneers now perform about 280 events this year, mostly in the Western United States, but across the country. So on that note, why don't we just kind of dive right in and get started? The first thing I wanted to start by asking is trying to have our speakers introduce themselves, but also kind of understand why they decided to go the benefit auction route. You know, there's a number of different ways that organizations can raise money. Of course, we have major gifts, monthly giving, grants, corporate partnerships, planned giving, online giving. There's probably 10 or so ways that nonprofit organizations and schools, PTAs, and educational foundations raise money. Events is one of them. And so let's start with Rachel. Why don't you kind of give us a start? Just introduce yourself. And then why did your organization decide to use event-based fundraising as part of your overall fundraising strategy?
Hi, thanks, Keith. Welcome, everyone. My name's Rachel Schmidt. I'm the Marketing and Events Director for English in Action. It is a Colorado-based nonprofit organization dedicated to helping adult immigrants learn English and creating cross-cultural connections. We had our first summer benefit, we call it, in 2018, and we were inspired to start running those large-scale fundraising events really as a major revenue driver. The summer benefit continues to fund much of our programming for the year. Roughly between 35 and 40% of our revenue comes from the summer benefit. So it's a really important piece of our overall fundraising goals for the year.
Hi guys, my name is Taylor Beveridge. I am the Director of Philanthropy for the Carlsbad Educational Foundation. I oversee public school fundraising for the foundation for 14 public schools in Carlsbad. And we fund impactful areas like STEAM, music, and educational innovation. We kind of post-COVID decided that the smaller, fewer events that we were hosting, it was a lot. It was a lot of resource on our organization, and we decided that we wanted to run one event every year. We moved all of our event resource to a gala that we host every May. I think there is an expectation that when you come to a gala, that you're going to have some kind of big auction. It's a spectacle, and people are excited to see it.
Kristi, welcome to the podcast.
So my name is Kristi. I'm with the Sacramento SPCA. I've been with the shelter for 8 years now. I'm their senior manager of corporate relations and events. So I oversee our signature events, one of them being our fall gala. So our gala is our second largest event of the year, and it does include a live auction, a silent auction, a dinner. It's held at our shelter. And we really find it important to bring together our donors, whether that is new donors or donors that we've had for several years. The gala also brings together our business community. So it's just a way to show the donors exactly what they're giving to, because we do have our gala at the shelter. So it is really important. It highlights our mission very distinctly, and it allows us to have face-to-face interactions with those that give us money and support throughout the year.
And that's a great transition to my next topic that I wanted to cover, which was sort of the main elements of each of your events. Generally speaking, the way that I see the world is there are primarily 6 basic ways that organizations make money through events. 2 are before the event and 4 are at the event. Before the event, obviously, ticket sales and sponsorships seem to be the 2 main ways that organizations raise money. Schools, educational foundations, and PTAs maybe a little less on the sponsorships, whereas non-schools are more on the sponsorship side. But basically, sponsorships and ticket sales before the event, and then at the event, it's primarily live auction, silent auction that you mentioned, fund a need, which we're going to spend some time on here. By the way, fund a need goes by many names in different parts of the country. People call it different things. The ask, the appeal, the call to the heart, the pledge, the paddle raise. It's all the same thing in our world. but the flat out ask for cash. And then, of course, the sixth thing is game and raffle ideas, what we call revenue enhancers that have many different kind of ancillary ways of making money. We kind of lump into that game and raffle ideas. So, Taylor, how about you? Which of those elements do you kind of incorporate into your event? What do you find to be the most effective?
I think we incorporate a lot of them. One of my favorite things that we started doing a few years ago, though, is I guess it falls in the raffle category, but we call it our entry ask. People are excited when they're showing up for an event, and we do something called our entry ask. It's always $100. And, when you go down the road and you get to your live auction, a lot of times these are things that are going for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 plus, or that's what we hope, I guess, as fundraisers. We wanted to create a way for lots of people to win something big. It does tie kind of to our auctioneer and that sort of fanfare that you get when some of these auction items go. And so we do $100 as you check in. For $100, you get the chance to win a 3-carat diamond. Last year, we had an evening on a yacht donated. And so for that $100, someone that might not be able to spend the thousands and thousands still has the opportunity to get in and, again, be a part of kind of that excitement that we do right before our live auction.
And win something big, it sounds like. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, we've had good luck with that. Fantastic. Thank you. How about you, Rachel? Which of the fundraising elements do you find most useful and do you like to incorporate into your event?
Well, definitely the sponsorship and underwriting leading up to the event is an important piece of our puzzle. Our goal for the most part every year is to basically pay for the cost of the event sort of leading into it. So we're already in the black as we build momentum for the event and sell tickets. Our ticket strategy has included, per person tickets and then hosted tables for a higher premium ticket price at a few different tiers. And then during the event, we do a paddle raise or a fund and need. And at Keith's suggestion, 2 years ago, we introduced something called the Last Paddle Battle, which we've used donated prizes for. And it's basically like the amount of each paddle raise is the same, and the donor with the last paddle in the air wins the prize. And that's been really fun. And Keith's professionalism and energy have brought a lot of success to that part of the event.
Kristi, you briefly touched on live auction and silent auction. Are there other elements that you like to incorporate into your event?
For our gala, we do primarily focus on a live auction and a silent auction. We used to do raffles and other revenue generating games, but we've actually streamlined that a bit. And we're focusing on our live auction and our silent auction for our main on-site revenue generators. We do things a little differently now with our silent auction. Our silent auction is actually mobile. It went mobile in 2020, like many auctions did. We allow all of our supporters, anyone and everyone, to actually bid on a silent auction item. So that kind of opens it up to whether you're a gala ticket holder or not. And then for our live auction, that is very specific to the on-site event with the supporters that are sitting in the room. But other than that, those are really our only two revenue generators for our gala. We try not to cram too much, I guess, into an event. We really want to focus on three things, which is auctions, and then, of course, highlighting our mission, which is part of our auction. We really just want to do a little more of a focused ask for our gala, and it seems to have been working well so far.
I think one of the big things to think about is, unfortunately, all the ways that I know how to make money take time, right? So you really need to be selective in the elements you're choosing and making sure that they're all generating revenue, and worth your time doing, as a couple of you mentioned. So that's great. So kind of moving on from this, I guess not to be self-serving, but I wanted to kind of understand, what are each of you looking for in a benefit auctioneer? Taylor, why don't we start with you?
I feel like auctioneers a lot of times are, it's like the best man or the maid of honor speech at a wedding. Like, it's a piece of it, it's coming, and you're kind of ready to wince a little bit. As nonprofit professionals, fundraising professionals, we are always trying to think of how we can cut costs, how we can maximize, these donations. And it feels like it would be easy to get a volunteer to come run your auction, to get the board member that doesn't have an issue. They're a great public speaker. And we've all been to one, and you've seen it fail, or you've seen it just, everyone just kind of is like, ugh, and you want to root for the charity. So I guess all of that to say, I think it is one of the most critical pieces of your event. You're investing in the professional because it matters so much. You have to have somebody that knows what they're doing, that they've done it 10 times over, they know not only how to, get money out of people, but control a room. For our auction, I have, almost 600 people in a room every year, and it is loud. They are drinking, and you get one person up there and they just don't know what they're doing. You have to have somebody that has done it 1,000 times. And so I am all for using whatever resource you have and putting it into it. I fully subscribe to hiring a professional auctioneer, and that's how we found you. I went through 5 or 6 different people, and I wanted to find the best. I wanted somebody with credibility. Do not hire the volunteer. It is not going to benefit your organization in the same way.
Thanks, Taylor. Appreciate that. Kristi, do you have anything to add to that?
We have used a professional auctioneer ever since I've been on board, which I've done 8 galas now. And even prior to my arrival, we did use an auctioneer, a professional auctioneer. It is a key revenue generator for the event. And we feel like we don't want to leave that up to an inexperienced person. We really rely heavily on that revenue that evening to hit our fundraising goals overall. We don't want to leave it up to chance. We want someone that we can work with, that we know has extensive experience, that we can kind of talk through our needs beforehand. Someone who really understands how to command an audience, how to engage with the audience, how to read the room, when to push and when to back off. And to help us not leave any money on the table. And we definitely think a professional auctioneer makes such a difference. We've been working with Keith now, and we've hit our numbers. We've continued to exceed them. And so the proof is in the pudding, as they say.
When you're talking about stage presence and someone that's working a room, things change, unexpected things happen. And I am the runner. I'm the on-call girl that will have to go up to Keith, and being able to go up to someone that's not, reading off of script, to be like, hey, can you actually change this? And them to have kind of the wherewithal to be like, got it, and then you're gone and you know that it's handled. I've seen it go wrong so many times. So someone that's kind of comfortable with that instant change. We script so much of our events, so much is planned, by the minute almost. And one of the biggest pieces, I think, of having that really great auctioneer is them being flexible and being able to kind of go off the cuff.
Yeah, I would echo that for sure, Taylor. I think the advantages are the working the room and feeling the energy and reading the energy and being able to pivot when needed. A great example is last year, Keith just was like, hey, who has a C note in their pocket? And then all of a sudden, like all of these C notes were in the room. We raised like $1,500 just in cash, just from one suggestion from Keith. And so bringing the energy and being able to shift as needed, I think, is a key element to having a professional run your auction or your fund need in our case.
My company motto is preparedness, caring, and humility, PCH. And I think what you're all kind of getting at is you want somebody who's prepared, you want somebody who seems like they care. And then for some reason, a lot of people who do this are arrogant. I'm not sure why that is, but you can't go into a room and be like, oh, come on, you can afford this, or isn't your wife worth this piece of jewelry? Or you just can't do that, right? You got to be humble and have folks feel like, not just that you care, but that you're not grinding them or trying to bamboozle or hoodwink them into doing something they don't want to do. They need to trust you. And so I always look at my role as taking the ball the last 3 yards. You all and your team have to carry the ball 97 yards across the field, do all that work. And you take me to the 3-yard line. And then if I do my job well, I get into the end zone, and then I get to do the dance, the dance in the end zone. But it's really, I could never do that without the 97 yards that your team carries the ball across the field. So you don't want to blow that last little bit when you've put all this work into it. Perfect. And that's a nice transition into how important is promoting your mission. I think a big part of this is, it's a party and it's fun. When some groups have more optimistic missions, if you will, some groups frankly have some kind of heavy missions. But we obviously, one need to get the mission across to get people fired up to donate. So both before and during your event, does someone want to start with how you kind of think about promoting your mission both before and during the event?
We hold our gala at Sacramento SPCA. So we do have like a brick and mortar animal shelter. And we've been doing that about 7 years. And that's different than I think a lot of organizations. They tend to go to like a hotel or a convention center, somewhere off site. So right off the bat, our gala is focused around where our actual work happens. And part of the gala are extensive tours that people can take. So they're having face-to-face interactions with our animals that are at the shelter, with alumni animals, with our staff, which includes like veterinary staff, animal care, and all of our departments. So everyone's really able to see what exactly they're giving to that evening. As part of the live auction, we do what's called a funding need, which is a cash ask. We usually provide a highlight of what we've been doing that past year. And we usually do that through video, slides. Sometimes we have special guests that come and talk about a particular story and kind of highlight their experience or share their stories with their animals.
Yeah, Kristi, your event is almost unfair because you get to have puppies and kittens galore at your event. That's almost, that's kind of an unfair advantage.
We like to invoke a certain emotion. We call it misty hopeful. So we want the audience inspired. Also, maybe a tear or two, but not too many, but like a happy tear. We definitely work on kind of setting the stage, if you will. And that's really what opens it up in terms of when we start asking for various levels of cash. We want people inspired and ready to help.
That was my dancer name back in the day, is Misty Hopeful, but I digress. Rachel, how do you think about this and think about your mission?
Well, I think mission is everything. We are doing our work in the Aspen Valley. And so Aspen is a small town with big reach. And so many of our event guests are often attending other events the same week. You know, we have arts organizations, we have other community engagement organizations that their focus for their benefits, their galas is more on the entertainment end. And we like to strike the balance where we're giving our guests a sort of pretty tight program. We found that it was really effective just telling the stories and having our participants come to the benefit and tell their story. So we've done that through a video. And I would say Misty Hopeful is spot on. I think that the people at the gala, they want to feel happy. It's summer. It's gorgeous. They, hopefully have a good buzz on. And so that optimism, demonstrating a need, but with an optimistic, hopeful, cheerful way has been a key to our success for our gala.
Couldn't agree more. That's fantastic. So Kristi and Rachel, both of your events are for nonprofits, which is frankly about 60% of our business. About 40% of our business is for schools, educational foundations, and PTAs. So on that light, on the school, educational foundation, and PTA kind of angle, Taylor, how do you think about this, about kind of promoting your mission?
Well, our gala every year is at a larger resort. Again, this is 500, 600 people, and agree with both of them. Mission is critical and needs to be, this is why you're hosting this event. And you want people, whether they're already donors or know nothing about you, to walk away and really have a better understanding of when they came in. For me, it's about sprinkling elements. We open the doors at 5, and I am kicking people off the dance floor at 11:30. So I've got a long way to go, and I have to make sure that I am not immediately sitting someone down for a long program because I will lose the attention of my audience. So to me, it's about finding little ways to get little pieces of information and really building to now what I'm always going to call our Misty Hopeful, following our live auction and right before our paddle race. And we show a very, very short clip, typically of our CEO speaking at the beginning of the night. There's a lot of cocktails. People are really excited, and you get 600 people in a ballroom. They're not ready to be serious yet. They're not ready to be quiet yet. And we've really learned that over the last few years. Noise control is a really big thing. So giving them that opportunity to learn some small things. We leave people alone for about half an hour during dinner. But I still have a slideshow going about some of the things that we funded this year, some photos of students in our programs. And then again, that build until our paddle raise video, our Misty Hopeful, thank you both, where we kill the lights. We kind of create this moment where we haven't asked people to really sit down and be that serious, listen to this 5-minute video, and ideally, get them to really feel and want to spend money for the mission, that we are providing at this event.
How do each of you involve your board members? So many of our events, it's the folks who attend, the folks who donate. For lack of a better word, the most important folks at your event are the board members, and they bring their friends and they donate the packages. How do you involve them both before and during your event? Rachel, you want to kick us off with that?
Yeah, Keith, you probably remember our board is so key to the success of almost everything we do. They're a volunteer board and they lend their talents, their knowledge, and their funding. And yeah, we have diverse board members. Not everyone is at the top tier of the funding. But we involve them as a committee. So the event planning committee usually forms at least 6 months prior. We include them as sponsors. We include them as underwriters. We include them as table hosts. Last year, 2 of our board members served as hosts, which was a $4,000 table buy-in. One board member's table raised like $60,000, just $65,000, just that one table. So they are absolutely key to the event as attendees, as supporters, as promoters. Several of our board members were actually included in our 30-year anniversary video that was part of the event last year. They all are motivated by English in Action in different ways, and we're so grateful for their energies.
Kristi, how do you work with your board members and kind of try to get them involved both before and during the event?
Yeah, so we do use our board members in a couple ways. So before the event, we really use our donors for networking. So whether they're pulling in some of our sponsorships or table sales, those are a couple ways there. And then for our auctions themselves, a lot of our board members are well connected. So they help us curate some of the packages that you see. So they're really helpful in connecting us to local businesses or unique experiences, high-end wine, things like that. So we're really utilizing them to help us craft what our live auction and sometimes silent auction too, what our packages look like. During the event, we really use them as mission ambassadors, like table ushers. They're really there as an extension of the staff to help welcome folks. We kind of spread them out through the room. So there's representation around the various tables with their name tags. People can identify them as board members. We usually do highlight them like real quickly amongst our sponsors and have them stand up. So again, they're recognized during the programs. People can kind of see their faces and applaud the work that they do.
One of the interesting things we've been talking about, I go to these benefit auction conferences, and one of the things that we talk about that's really been coming up lately is, are people thinking they like to put their live auction first and have that lead in to the fund and need and have that momentum work? Or do people like to put their fund and need in the middle of the live auction, do some live auction packages and then the fund and need and then finish out the live auction? Or are people more interested in kind of doing the fund and need first? Kristi, why don't you start out with that?
A lot of the times in the pre-planning stages of the gala, we will send our auctioneer, which is Keith, a list of the items that we have. So there's a lot of tactic, I think, involved in like the ordering of your live auction items that you're actually selling. We have always mutually agreed that for our audience, at least, the best placement for fund and need is right smack in the middle. So if we have, let's say, 10 live auction items, we usually sell the first 5. We'll do a mission-based highlight, which includes like the slideshow, highlights of our mission. Then we ask for cash, and then we will close out the program with the last 5 live auction items to sell. So it's still fresh, and people aren't ready to bail.
We do it a little bit differently, but again, our event is spread out over a longer period of time. So, and with a really large audience, it's so important that I have actual amounts of time where I'm not doing much. Our program's extremely light up until really the live auction, and then we hold a lot of weight in our fund and need video, our paddle raise video. But the live auction is exciting and there's cheering, and then we're able to kind of take it down from there. So we wait till the end, and then it always follows our video. And then following that, we always have our band come on.
Usually the paddle raise or the fund and need is towards the end of the program. And because we keep the program fairly tight, where we have like an hour of cocktails and music, and then pretty much like 30 to 35 minutes of programming, and then the 15, 20 minutes of paddle raise, people are still at attention. But because we have the student speaker, like the adult learner who comes and speaks at our event, that's sort of the X factor, depending on the story that they tell and depending on how they deliver that story. And so that can have the misty hopeful, but it also can be heavy. Immigrant stories are all different, but there are some challenging themes among them. So we've had to pivot sometimes in terms of, okay, let's do the paddle raise after the video that has a little bit of an uptick, so people are feeling energized and not heavy.
Rachel, your event is what we call a fund and need only event, meaning you don't even incorporate a live auction. Pre-COVID, that was probably 10% of our business. Now it's probably 20% of our business. A lot of groups are really focusing on fund and need only. And I've always felt that a live auction does a really nice job building momentum into the fund and need, because then you get to know your auctioneer. They can be funny, they can be engaging, so that when they come up to ask for money, which is it's kind of an intimate thing, coming up and saying, my friends, this is why we're here. And then you ask somebody for money, they already know you and say, oh, I like that guy, or he's funny, or this is engaging, versus coming up cold and saying, all right, you've never seen me before, but now I'm going to be asking you to give the organization $10,000. Can be a little kind of standoffish. So I like at least doing part of the live auction before the fund and need. With events that have 6 or 8 live auction packages or fewer, I usually put the fund and need at the end. But when you have 8, 10, 12, or even more live auction packages, I probably put the fund and need 2/3 of the way through, and I think that kind of works the best. So one of the primary questions I get in live auctions are, do we use consignment packages or not? So there's companies out there that provide live auction trips, dinners, unique experiences that are, and in a lot of ways, they're fantastic. They do what they say they're going to do. The service is excellent. They're usually things that a lot of organizations couldn't get. Kind of in every way, they're fantastic, other than the organization doesn't keep all the money. Kristi, let's kind of start with you. Does your organization use consignment packages, and how do you kind of think about that?
Yeah, so we do. We use consignment items for a very specific purpose. So we use them for our travel packages or unique experiences that we just don't have access to. So that would include some type of international travel. We typically do 2 consignment trips for, let's say, that average of 10 lots. 2 of those will be consignment, and they are always some type of extensive, nicely packaged travel. It's really hard to get all of those nice packages for free. But the other benefit of consignment is that they are able to be sold multiple times, versus the other packages are, donated by one donor, or we have one gift certificate to said restaurant, and that's just auctioned off alone. But with consignment, you are able to sell as many trips as anyone is willing to buy. It's a little more engaging, where if there's like a bidding war between 2 prices, we can split it and kind of sell off multiple at once, so that more than one bidder actually does receive the package, which I think makes people happy.
Another big part of consignment is you need to pick the right packages, right? I always say, I hate 90% of consignment because I think it's frankly too expensive. And if we have something that costs, $5,000 and we sell it for $5,500 a year event, it's not the end of the world, but nobody's excited about that, right? If we take $5,500 out of your room and you only keep $500. Whereas if we have the right items, let's say we have a package that only costs $1,000 or $1,200, and we can sell it for $2,000 or $2,200. So each package, you keep half the money, you keep $1,000 on each package, but then we can sell multiples 5, 10, 15 times. Say you take $26,000 out of your room, but you get to keep $13,000. Most of my clients would get pretty excited about that. So Taylor, how do you think about consignment packages? Do you incorporate them? Do you like them? How do you think about them?
I use them primarily for the larger trips that we put up there. It's about finding people you trust. There's a lot of consignment vendors out there. Ask your auctioneer, because they sell them. A lot of times they have been on a lot of these trips. That was very, very helpful to us. I think our first gala, we went right to Keith and we're like, hey, do you work? And he's like, actually, I do every single day. So even if you get this great price and you're able to sell it, and it seems all parties are happy, you don't want the donor to have a bad experience.
To your point, if you could get this great week-long trip to Tuscany, that'd be great, but most people can't procure that. Most people don't know somebody in Tuscany that wants to give your organization their house for a week. So, well, I can hardly believe it, but we're kind of coming up on our time here. I want to thank you all so much for participating. Kristi, Taylor, and Rachel, thank you so much for joining us here. So I'm going to be signing off here on behalf of the KLM Auctions Friends with Benefit Auction podcast. My name is Keith McLean, KLM Auctions. Thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you again shortly. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.